Let's talk about self-management, a set of skills that are critical to kids' success in school and beyond. Self-management has several names and many concepts associated with it. We're also going to talk about it in terms of marshmallows, stop signs, squeezy balls, and teaching. Let's start with the marshmallows. In the late 1960s, a Stanford professor named Walter Mischel wanted to gauge young children's ability to delay gratification, so he conducted a groundbreaking self-management experiment. He and his researchers took preschool kids and sat them in a room in front of a marshmallow or other treat. The researcher would say, "I'm going to leave for 15 minutes. If you would like to eat the marshmallow, then eat it. If you can wait until I come back, I'll give you a second one and you can eat them both." That's it. That was the whole experiment. Mischel found that despite their best efforts, 2/3 of the kids ate the marshmallow before the researcher came back. In the years since then, the experiment has been copied many times with kids from different communities, ethnicities, and backgrounds in a range of countries all over the world. Typically, 2/3 of the kids eat the marshmallow. Here's where the results of Mischel's experiment get really interesting. After running the experiment a bunch of times in California, his team tracked down all the marshmallow test kits they could find 10 years later, and 20 years, and 30, and 40, and they found some startling results. The kids who were able to wait for the second treat scored better on the SATs, once you control for IQ, were rated as more academically and socially competent by their parents, and had a greater ability to plan, handle stress, and concentrate without becoming distracted, even decades later. There has been a bunch of research that builds on or extends these findings. One larger, more comprehensive study followed 1,000 children born in the early 70s in Dunedin, New Zealand. Focusing on self-management, researchers interviewed the children as they grew from 4 to 11. They also gave questionnaires to parents, teachers, and peers. Then they tracked down the original kids when they were in their 30s. They found that the children's ratings on self-management between the ages of 4 and 11 correlated with whether or not they were high school or college graduates, addicted to alcohol or drugs, economically stable or living paycheck to paycheck, involved in criminal activity. All these results lead to one big question. What does this mean for the kids who ate the first marshmallow? For that matter, what does it mean for the kids who don't have self-management between the ages of 4 and 11? Does this mean if the child hasn't developed the right self-management skills early, her whole life path is much worse? Here's what Walter Mischel says about this exact issue.
We're talking about correlations that are significant. We're not talking about a destiny for an individual. So I want to be very clear that a branding would be completely missing the point, particularly since the most exciting findings about the marshmallow experiments are the ease with which it is possible to change an individual's ability to delay gratification.
And there are ways to do that.
There are very straightforward ways to do it that connect with how the brain works. The interpretation to be taken from the findings is that this is an enormously important skill. It has predictive qualities. It has protective effects, but it is teachable. It is changeable.
In fact, Mischel showed that self-management could be taught in an experiment similar to the marshmallow test. In this version, researchers gave the kids helpful ideas before the test. They said, imagine the marshmallow is actually a flat picture, or a cloud, or there is a bug crawling on it. Suddenly, the kids could wait far longer. So there are strategies and techniques you can give kids to help them nurture and grow their self-management muscles, many of which can help students in longer-lasting, more profound ways. These strategies extend beyond envisioning a situation differently. They involve teaching kids to avoid certain situations, modify their surroundings to reduce distractions, manage their emotions constructively, shift their attention, organize to complete tasks, and plan how to overcome obstacles that may arise. Still, despite growing research on the topic, we're in the early days of learning the best ways to help students build self-management skills. The techniques that work, or even just what to focus on, can vary from student to student in a single class. But one thing we do know is this. Teachers in the classroom and parents at home tend to notice self-management issues the most when something goes wrong. A student who loses track of his assignments and comes to class unprepared. A student who constantly interrupts peers and teachers. A student who fidgets constantly and can't focus in the classroom. This could be any kid, at any age, at any ability level. What adults normally do is see this behavior and tell the student to stop. Stop messing around, you have to do your homework. Stop fidgeting. Or like in Michelle's experiment, don't eat the marshmallow. Now, when you do that, you're basically telling the child you have to stop and you have to figure out how to do it. You've just put it all on the child. And the problem is, maybe the child doesn't know how. For whatever reason, they never learned this particular self-management skill. Saying stop doesn't fix that. So what if rather than saying stop, you say, instead of what you're doing now, which isn't working too well, why don't you do this? For that kid who is fidgeting all the time, what if you give him a squeezy ball and say, squeeze this ball as much as you want because you need to do something with your hands and that will make it easier for you to pay attention in class. Instead of just saying stop or no, you're saying, here's a strategy to try. One of the findings of the original marshmallow test is that it's primarily a test of whether a child has learned particular self-management strategies. Kids who stare at the marshmallow and simply try their hardest not to eat it, well, they pretty much always eat it. The kids who have a strategy to shift their attention by singing a song, walking around, putting their forehead on the table, covering their eyes, or any number of things are best able to wait for the second marshmallow. As we now know, shifting attention is one of a broad range of self-management strategies. What works and what to focus on can vary from child to child. But the self-management strategies as a whole are teachable, and like muscles, they can be strengthened in all students.